Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. So today we're gonna go over an email that I received from a brother. So let's get it. It reads, "Hope all is well with you and yours. Sorry to bother you again, but I'm having a hard time figuring out who is the man of sin spoken of in Second Thessalonians, the second chapter, verse 3. Is this man of sin the nation of Edom? Yes, it is. Or is this a actual person yet to come? Thank you for your time and work. Shalom. Shalom to you, brother." He also said, or is Second Thessalonians 2 and 3 referring to the Roman Catholic Church, which is really one and the same. So maybe you're referring to the seven heads, meaning the seven hills that Rome sits on. But either way, it is Rome, aka the empire or kingdom, the worldwide empire now that's headed by the so-called white man, aka Esau, Edom. So you were right in that. All right. And the reason that I think you said here is it an actual person is because of the Christian doctrine, or at least, the confusion caused by the Christian doctrine of in a quote unquote antichrist, meaning just one person, but there is no just one antichrist. But you know what? Let's just get it. Let's not overtalk this thing. Let's go to Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and let's start at the top. Man of lawlessness. Now we beseech you, brethren, it reads, by the coming of our Lord Yahushua Hamashiach, that reads here Jesus Christ, which is in the Paleo Hebrew, Yahushua Hamashiach is Christ in the Paleo Hebrew, and by gathering together unto him, verse 2, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that the day of Christ is at hand. The day of Christ is what we call the day of the Lord in the scriptures, or the second coming of Christ. All right. Like it says in Hebrews, the 9th chapter, Christ at his second coming. Okay. Verse 3, back in Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So basically what Paul is saying is that don't let anyone tell you that Yahushua will come back before there's a falling away first, and who the man of sin is, that he will be revealed into the whole world. The son of perdition. Perdition means destruction. Who is the son of destruction? Okay, one way for us to see who this is simply to see who would be the last rulership, like who will be in power, who will be creating chaos and sin and destruction on planet Earth before Christ returns. That's one easy way to put it, or to find out exactly who this is referring to. And that's how I came to that conclusion myself, and not just myself, but many brothers, of course, many brothers and sisters. Okay. Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 4, who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So who else tells you that there's science? You should trust in the science, or you have like the Pope. What do they call it again? I'll probably put it on the screen. What do they call it? Where the Pope pretty much, whoever the Pope is, I know the Pope recently just died, but excuse me, whatever it is, I'll put it on the screen. Essentially, where what they say goes. That's just a short way of putting it. All right, that pretty much what they say has to be sound doctrine, without a shadow of doubt. That's where they're getting at with it. But that's what the Pope has, whatever that decree is. But what I'm saying is going back to this verse, who opposeth and exalted himself above all that is called God or that is worship. Okay, who makes himself an idol, who makes themselves to be to be the most high, at least in their eyes, right? So that he is God, sitting in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Okay. So this is referring to the so-called white man. And again, I'm saying that as the quote unquote elites, the ones that actually know what's going on. But those are the ones, or the nation of Edom, aka the so-called white man, is the chief nation that's in rulership right now. And this is the last kingdom that will be in rulership before Christ's return. Okay, so yeah, you were right in that. Verse 5, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things? And now ye know that withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time. Okay, let's grab something real quick. Let's get Luke 12, Luke 12, chapter 12, verse, let's jump straight to it, verse 2. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. So it's going to be known who the so-called white man is, who Esau is, because the Bible talks about Esau way too much, how he's the man of the curse, how he's the man that has no place for repentance, who the Lord shall have indignation for forever. You have the Bible, you have the Most High in the Bible describing Esau as these things, but yet the planet Earth as a whole has no idea who this man is. It doesn't make any sense, right? But it will be revealed. It will be revealed. All right. And it makes sense from a standpoint of that's exactly why they don't let you know that they know that they are Esau. And that's why they do so many different things, is because they know how prophecy is going to play out and they're trying to change it, aka showing themselves that they are a God. Okay. By trying to change prophecy that they know is already written. All right. They think they can actually stop Christ when he returns. It's pathetic, but that's just part of prophecy and part of them fulfilling prophecy. Okay, the Most High gave a certain level of understanding to the so-called elite of the Edomites, or the so-called white man that started to found this country known as, at least what country I'm in, known as the United States of America. All right, they knew exactly what would happen to them, in the end times. So therefore, they set up a kingdom to try to send everybody else into oblivion, all right, into sin, because they know exactly how things are going to play out. All right, let's get verse 7 back in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Christ is coming to take him out of the way. Okay, let's get Revelation, the 11th chapter. Grab that real quick. Revelation chapter 11 and verse 15. And the seventh angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. So that's the mission. The initial mission that Christ is coming to do is to take the current kingdom, the current rulership, out of power. Okay. He's not coming back to split the rulership with nobody. He's coming to take this man out of the way. Okay. Because, you can only have one rulership at one time. All right. Somebody got to be ruling and everybody else got to be the subjects. And that's what Yahushua is coming to do, or Christ. All right, until he be taken out of the way. But what does it say here? The mystery of iniquity doth already work. So at the time that Paul was writing this, it was already working. What is the mystery of iniquity? We know iniquity is sin. The mystery is that everyone thinks that they right in their own mind, which we know there are ways that are right to a man, but thereof is death, right? But everyone thinks that Christianity is the right way. They think that Islam is the right way. They think that everything else that's being taught in this country that's correct is the right way. Okay. The Constitution is the right way. The United States government is the right way. That's the mystery of iniquity, because it appears to be that way, but it's iniquity, it's sin. Okay. And then even deeper than that, you have the different mystery school systems of iniquity, or excuse me, of antiquity, meaning in the ancient world, in the ancient times. All right. But you still have those mystery school systems. Okay. And we'll talk more about that as we go on. But that's what he was referring to. Only he who letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Verse 8, and then shall that wicked be revealed. So before Yahushua returns, the whole world will know that the so-called white man was wicked, and that everything that he had us doing was based on the worship of pagan gods. The fact that people go to church on Sunday, okay, which was after the worship of the sun, which was constituted in Christianity by Constantine the Great, okay, as they call him at least, all right, by the Emperor Constantine back in the 4th century. All right, they're going to know why Saturday, everyone's going to know why Saturday was named Saturday, after the worship of not the planet Saturn, really the deity Saturn, which was made after the worship of the planet Saturn. Okay, all these different things, and I'm just naming, just the days of the week, but, everything is going to be revealed, how it was wicked, because everyone will understand what righteousness finally is, which is keeping the statute, laws, and commandments, and who it was given to, who the covenant was given to, which you can read that in Psalms 147 chapter, who the covenant was given to, the children of Israel, aka the so-called black man and woman. Okay, that's what righteousness is. The only way you can be righteous is if you keep the law. All right, that's what righteousness is. Now, going back to this though, and then shall the wicked be revealed. All right, the wicked will finally be revealed. Everyone will know what wickedness is. That you're supposed to keep the Sabbath. Okay, that you're supposed to keep the dietary law. Okay, that you can't just do whatever you want to do. You can't just marry whoever you want to marry. And love is not, what do they call it? Love is love. Whatever that little whatever the little wicked saying they be saying to justify all manners of evil, homosexuality, so on and so forth, which soon would be a PDF file. Okay, I'm being told you have to say that here on YouTube to not get your video struck down, but y'all know what I'm talking about. All these different things will be revealed. Okay, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. You see? So that's one of his main missions when Christ gets here, is to destroy this stronghold, okay, this kingdom, or take down the son of perdition, aka the man of sin, which is again talking about the rulership that's going to be in place before he gets here. It's the same exact rulership that was in place before he left. And the Most High set this up so beautifully. It's like things just repeat themselves, and it repeated itself, perfectly, because when Christ was actually here on the scene on the earth, Rome was in rulership. All right. So you had a so-called black man being oppressed just like he is right now. Okay. Not knowing, a lot of them didn't know exactly who they were. Okay. But we were in subjection to the Romans. Just like exactly how it will be when he get here. And he said he's going to consume them with the spirit of his mouth. All right, shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. Wow. Even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. This kingdom, this country, which is just the headquarters of the entire world. So it's not like I'm saying it's just America, which I think sometimes brothers get too caught up in talking about just America. They're like United States, America, America this, America that. Yeah, this is the headquarters for Babylon. Don't get it twisted. However, it's been spread. Babylon, her foulness, the great whore, her foulness, her lewdness, all right, it's been spread out to the entire world. Okay, the entire world is engulfed by the workings of Satan. Okay, so it's still talking about the so-called white man. And remember, keep this in mind now that Paul actually had to write this, at the time that the Romans were in rulership. So he had to use certain words. So he couldn't just come out and say, this is Rome. This is Esau. This is the so-called white man, even though he put it pretty plain, in Romans chapter 9, he put it pretty plain for us. But, everything couldn't be revealed just straight out. Yahushua, he said himself that he writes in parables, right? So Paul did too as well. So he couldn't just say exactly everything just outright. I think I already made that clear. But even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. Okay. This world has been given into the hand of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. You being told that you can vote and you have a say so in how this country runs is a lying wonder. Okay. Different signs, the different military power, the different buildings that they've constructed. These are all signs and lying wonder and power that the United States has shown. Again, just headquarters, but really out to the whole world, out to China too as well, which is a major part of this global corporation. Okay. Spread out all throughout planet Earth. Okay. This whore has spread her legs to all nations of men. All right, verse 10. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Deceivableness of unrighteousness. What's that? That's being told that, again, the church is the way. Go to church. The Hebrew Israelites are a hate group. That's deceivableness of unrighteousness. I talk about the term Hebrew Israelites, but you get the point. It don't matter. What I'm getting at is, righteousness or keeping the statute, laws, and commandments and the teaching of that, even at this time right now, and it's going to get worse, is being told that that's unrighteousness. That's hate. All right. That's deceivableness of unrighteousness. To be told that globalism is the way. God loves everybody. No, he don't. He said that himself, that he don't love everybody. Okay, so how you go just, change what the scriptures say. All right, that's deceivableness of unrighteousness. All right, and with all, reading back at the top at 10, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth. The scriptures are the love of the truth that no one seems to pay attention to. Okay. That they might be saved. It really, like in my world, since I'm mostly involved with outside of the family members and things like that, that people that do read the scriptures, it's just amazing to see, like when I look at different things like on YouTube, where you just see so many people, like most people just really don't read the scriptures at all. And they just kind of view this as just something, I'm just kind of working on it. I'm just kind of seeing where things go. And I just start going to church and start looking at online sermons and things like that. That's a way that a connection with the Most High is being viewed nowadays. It's just a thing you just kind of put on the side. Okay. And that's a deceivableness of unrighteousness. And that's our people not receiving the love of the truth, which is the scriptures. Okay. that they might be saved. Because you can receive it and still not be saved, but that they might be saved. All right. And I think we've gotten enough in Second Thessalonians chapter 2 to kind of give us a foundation on who the man of sin or the son of perdition is. Okay. But we're going to actually grab some scriptures. I know I've just been kind of yapping again, but verse 11, and for this cause, the Most High shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. Verse 12, that they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. We have pleasure in unrighteousness. Believe not the truth, which is the scriptures. Okay, the scriptures tell you, like Yahushua said, I came not to destroy the law or the prophets. I came to fulfill. Okay. But yet we're being told that the law is done away with. Okay. We have pleasure in unrighteousness. Like they had the meme out there that says, Jesus died for my sins, so I'm going to sin all I can. That's something that people say and they'll repost it like on the social media pages. Not knowing how wicked that really is. Have pleasure in unrighteousness. It's not something that's just innocent. That's going to come up in judgment day. The fact that you said that. You know what I'm saying? That they might all be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. All right. So that's what Paul was letting us know. Who's going to be in rulership and what's going to happen to them and what Christ is coming to do and how our people at this time that he was writing this, and also in the last days, would not believe in the truth. Okay. And the deceivableness. And that's the thing. So the so-called white man, he rules in deception. He's cunning, just as he was described in Genesis, the 25th chapter. He's cunning, meaning he's deceptive. It appears to be righteous. Things appear to be righteous, but it's just not. It's a complete opposite. And that's how you create a lie. Okay, the best lies have what we call some truth to it. What that means is that it looks like the truth, but that's a mystery of iniquity. Like, for example, Easter. Easter appears to be a celebration of Christ in his resurrection. However, all it is a thinly veiled worship of the mother goddess, Easter or Astarte. That's all it is. In its actual roots, that's what it is. But however, the world doesn't understand that, for the most part, at least. And a lot of information is starting to come out, but people just don't care. And that's what's so sad, because we've been taught these lies so long that people just cannot accept that. They can't accept that they've been lied to by the so-called white man because, you know why? He's already shown himself that he is God, all these different things that he's done. You tell a so-called black man right now, hey, we need to fend for ourselves. We need to build our own. We need this on our own. Well, what you think happened to Black Wall Street, brother? Well, basically, when somebody say that, they saying, if we try to build something on our own, or we try to do something on our own, the so-called white man going to take it away from us because he's our daddy. He's our God. That's what they saying when they say that. And that's what a lot of our people truly believe, because the so-called white man has done so many lying wonders. You get me? He's done so many different things in history, and we're being told also that he's always ruled, even throughout the Middle Ages. He's always ruled. Okay. Christ looks like a so-called white man. Therefore, you think that he is God, and that's what this is referring to as well. This is chiefly what this is referring to. All the different images show not only Christ, but the Most High, or God, as a white man. Okay, so he's showing himself that he is God. You get it? And he is to be worshipped, which puts our people into a different type of subjection, and even their own people. Okay, that's what I always say, that you can't really pay the average so-called white man any attention. Like, a lot of times we put our energy into them. Oh, the white man, the devil, this and that. He is at the top of the level. I'm not even saying everybody else ain't. I'm just saying that they don't know what's going on either. They not They only like a half a step above our people. They under the lies and the deceivableness too as well. It's not about them. It's about the people that instituted all of this. Okay. But the Lord put these different things on these men, that created the images of the Most High, that whitewashed them, which we read about in the scriptures. Okay. In First Maccabees. Okay. The Lord did this on purpose. So it's all part of prophecy. But that's exactly why, we view the so-called white man as God. These things are psychological, aka psychological tricks, aka witchcraft, that the so-called white man has instituted. He'll tell you, the color doesn't matter. Jesus' color doesn't matter. Then why was he portrayed as Caesar Borgia, aka a gay so-called white man? If it don't matter. But it does matter because, again, once you see that image, it gets ingrained into you that the so-called white man is not only God, but he's your God. He's over you. That's why we accept terms like minority. We're minor. We're under. We're less than. Okay. We've accepted that to this point, in the different quote unquote liberal ideologies that's on this world too as well, that's in this world now. They all get you to accept that you've been oppressed, you've been this and that. And we have, but it gets to a certain point where you accept that as victimhood. Okay, but let's actually get some scriptures now. I was just setting the foundation. Let's get some scriptures to back all of this up, which what we've been referring to here. First of all, I want to address this. Where you said, is this a actual person yet to come? Well, I think I know where you got that from. So let's get 1 John chapter 4 and verse 3. And every spirit that confesseth not that Yahushua HaMashiach is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is that spirit of Antichrist. So it's whoever does not believe in Yahushua HaMashiach. I'm not talking about the church's version of Jesus Christ, which that man is completely different from Christ. Christ is an austere man, okay, meaning a strict man. He don't play. He come in to wreck shop. But the quote unquote Jesus Christ, the different image, which is a whole different deity, really is a whole different person that's being taught. The one that get tossed in the church and different religious systems. That's who Jesus Christ is. Okay, you believe on him, you're an antichrist. All right. And this is that spirit of antichrist. But my point is, there is no one antichrist. There is not just one actual person. There isn't one Edomite or so-called white man that is antichrist. There's no one antichrist just in general. Anyone that doesn't accept the true belief of Yahushua HaMashiach is an antichrist. Okay. Whereof ye have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. So at that time, it was already in the world. Man, already. And it's been multiplied by many times at this time, because it's been 2,000 years later. Let's get 1 John chapter 2 and verse 18. Little children, it is the last time. And as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come. This is where a lot of people get, there's just one Antichrist from right here. But they just don't read the rest of the verse or something. It reads, even now are there many Antichrists. So it's not just one person to come, whereby we know that it is the last time. All right. So there's not just one Antichrist. There's many Antichrists. And again, over here in 1 John 4 and 3, it tells you what makes someone an Antichrist. Okay. So it's not just one person. But when you say in the Roman Catholic Church, I mean, that's still valid because it is Rome. All right. And America is basically just Rome 2.0. That's all it is. And that's not just me saying that. The scriptures tell you that, which we're going to read here in a second. I have Psalms 83 pulled up just to show that even though it is Esau, Edom, that's the king of the kingdom of Rome 2.0, the beast, the fourth beast that Daniel, the seventh chapter speaks of, also Revelation, the 13th chapter, and Revelation, the 17th chapter. Okay, that is the fourth beast, and he is the king of it. However, all nations have conspired against the children of Israel, right? Okay, the so-called black man and woman. Okay, all nations are conspiring against us. Okay, not because I want that to be true. It's just here in the Bible. Let's get Psalms chapter 83, verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. Verse 2. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. So everything that you see is crafty counsel. It was done on purpose. A lot of people think there's all these coincidences. You know, the discrepancies between what the Bible says and what people actually do. It's not a coincidence. It's just not a big misunderstanding, and people just interpret it this way. Oh, well, you know, it's all these different religions or all these different denominations exist because people look at things differently. There's nothing wrong with that. We're all under Jesus Christ. No, all these things were made to create confusion. So you don't know what is going on. You know, if you're a Christian, you've got 30 different denominations of Christianity. Okay. You got Jehovah Witnesses. You got Seventh-day Adventists. You got non-denomination, which is a denomination. You got Baptists. You got Lutheranism. You got Methodists. You got all these different denominations, with our Catholic too as well. You got all these different denominations of Christianity, and then within Islam, you have all these different divisions. You have neo-paganism. You have all these different things. It wasn't put on the earth for no reason. It wasn't just a coincidence. No, it's big coincidence or big misunderstanding. There was crafty counsel taken. These things were created by men that conspired together to cause and create confusion on earth, aka, or why they are known as, aka, the sons of perdition or the son of perdition, okay, of destruction, because they know what the Bible says about sin and the relation to destruction, right? We know that all wages of sin is death, right? And they know that. So they putting all people into sin because they want everybody to be destroyed but them. All right. Verse 4. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. To a certain degree, they were successful at this because it's not accepted nowadays. It's not generally known that the so-called black man and woman are Israelites. That's who the book is referring to, who the Bible is referring to. We've been cut off from being a nation, that their name may be no more in remembrance. And how else did they do it? They did that by placing someone else, the so-called Jewish, as the Israelites of the Bible. And really, it's loosely because they say Jewish, you know, ish, like or pertaining to, and they don't follow the scriptures at all. They have a Talmud. Why would you need a Talmud if you have the Bible? Where's the Talmud at in the Bible? You know, all the different things that the so-called Jewish man does, where they know they are not the ancient Israelites. They already know that. But that's just part of the confusion, right? That's on planet Earth. And when so many people believe something, everyone else, you know, or when you get a group or a large enough people to believe something, it just get accepted as truth, even if it's not the truth, even if it's a lie. But if you get a bunch of people to believe it, now, if you're the minority in that belief, no pun intended, just meaning the smaller portion of the people that believe like, if 98% of people believe something, when that 2% says otherwise, then you're going to be looked at as crazy. If you come out and say 2 plus 2 don't equals 4, which is something that is true, but just saying, if you were to come out and say that's not true, you're going to be looked at as you crazy. Just like today, the Jewish are not the real Jews of the Bible. I hate saying real Jews. They aren't the Jews of the Bible, right? Somebody going to look at you like you crazy. But why is that? That was done in crafty counsel. Okay. Men actually had what they call think tanks and conspired together, and put their witchcraft together. All right. They had top warlocks and magicians and things of that nature, top research scientists and psychologists, things of that nature, and created this doctrine. And when I say create this doctrine, the different pagan ideologies that are put out on the earth, because the so-called Jewish being Israelites, or I won't even say Israelites, so they don't even claim to be Israelites, but them even being called Jews, that kind of goes even further back, to the Khazars. Either way, anyway, you get the point, though. This was crafty counsel. It was done on purpose, okay? Verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Verse 5, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. So even though it's headed by the so-called white man, by Esau, Edom, this Roman rulership that's currently, on planet Earth, all nations have consulted against the children of Israel. Okay. So you have to keep that in mind. Sometimes we focus so much on the so-called white man that we let the other nations off the hook. And the so-called white man gonna get his, and he is the head of this rulership. But I just don't like letting all the other nations off the hook all at the same time. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Then you see verse 6 goes into the different nations, which for time's sake, we won't go into all nations. But you see, I do want to say this, the tabernacles of Edom. Edom was listed first. Okay. The children of the curse. All right. And we're going to get that. Let's keep going, though. As much as I've already gotten, I'm not sure if I need to go as in much detail about Daniel chapter 7 as I intended. But let's at least get this, because it is important to know. Again, to the point, going back to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, let's give verse 3 one more time. It says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So again, to see who that man of sin that will be revealed, who the son of perdition is, all you have to do is see in the Bible who is the last rulership before Christ's return. Okay, in Daniel chapter 7 tells you that very clearly. Okay, verse 1 in Daniel chapter 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream in visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Verse 2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. Verse 3, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. So these great beasts are just referring to the four major rulerships or kingdoms of the times. That's all this really means. Okay, just to put it simply. And then it came from the sea, because the sea is referring from the nations. Okay, all these kingdoms will come from the different nations. All right. Now, let's go down here in Daniel chapter 7. And let's go to verse 17. These great beasts, which are four kings, see, it tells you, which shall arise out of the earth. Verse 18, but the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. See, this is the king or the kingdom that will be in rulership right before the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. The saints of the Most High are talking about the Israelites. That's in Psalms chapter 148 and 14. Verse 19, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. So the fourth beast stood out from all others, and this is Rome. Everyone knows this is Rome. Even the so-called white scholars know this is referring to Rome. And the thing is about that is that they're referring to ancient Rome when they say this, but they always fail to give you the understanding that the fourth beast has been resurrected. Okay, like in Revelation, the 13th chapter, which we're about to read here in a second, but this is also referring to the resurrected Rome, aka the king or the rulership spearheaded by America. All right, that's being ruled over by the so-called white man. All right, but because of their great strength in military power, all right, Rome, it says that they were diverse from all others, exceedingly dreadful. Okay, whose teeth were of iron. All right. Again, it goes from ancient Rome all the way to now. They're always talking about Rome. Rome wasn't built in one day. It's always about Rome. And a lot of so-called white people, especially, they're like infatuated with, talking about Rome, aren't they? Everybody loved Rome. It's because they were, a dominant rulership at their time, at least that first Roman rulership. Okay. Again, they're talking about the one more in antiquity that fell in 476. All right, but then you had the Roman Empire also in the Middle Ages too as well, the Byzantine Empire, and then it got resurrected to again America. Let's get first Maccabees chapter 8. Let's read verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amenity with all that came unto them. A league of enmity with all that came unto them. And that they were, verse 2, men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts, which they had done against the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute. So the Romans, this is around the time that there were still the Greeks in rulership, but Romans were on the rise at the time of the Maccabees here. Okay. But this is how Rome was viewed. All right. Even in the scriptures, I believe it's John chapter 11, how the Israelites were saying that they were scared of the Romans, that they would take away our nation. I believe it is. I believe it's John the 11th chapter or 16, one of the two, where it says that basically the Romans would take away our nation. All right, I want to say, but that was the fame of the Romans. Okay, so Rome is also, it has always been revered that way. So they had to bring it back as America, but they couldn't tell you that it was Rome because you would match up the scriptures way too much if we knew that. Okay. Verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And let's see verse 21 real quick. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Verse 22, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. So you see, this is referring to the exact same people. Okay. The horn that had eyes that spake a mouth that spake very great things. This is referring to the same people that will be in rulership that had war with the saints and rebelled against them. When was this? This is when the time that the so-called white man came back into power. When we were taken out of rulership in the Middle Ages, aka the Dark Ages, the quote unquote Dark Ages. Why they name it the Dark Ages? Because they knew, or they know, that so-called black men were kings and even queens at that time. All right, the Dark Ages. But at that time when we fell, that's when this same horn, aka America, made war with the saints and rebelled against them until the Ancient of Days came. So that's the last rulership. Okay, and that's the last kingdom that will be present on earth. So that's how we can find out who it is. Okay, that is Esau Edom. And judgment was given unto the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Verse 23, and thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth. Rome 2.0, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms. So part of, and shall devour the whole earth and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. You know, it was a huge thing in World War II when the so-called white man, he dropped the bombs, those atomic bombs. All right. That was a huge thing because that installed fear into the whole planet Earth to let all the other nations know, look, like, we got them bombs on us and we ain't afraid to drop them. If you know they did that back then, it's been what, like 70 plus years since those bombs were dropped. You already know that the amount of nuclear bombs and atomic bombs they have now could wipe out millions of people all at one time. Okay, so that's the so-called white man in his kingdom here. All right, treading the whole earth down, and breaking into pieces. Okay, verse 24. If you were wondering, in the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and shall subdue 3 kings. Okay. So again, I have the 10 kings or the 10 horns and things written down like on another page, but I never really want to go into them because I just start getting to a whole nother tangent. But either way, I think we get the point. The so-called white man is going to be, he's going to be destroyed upon Christ's return. And he is who is in rulership right now. It is Rome. Okay. Speaking of, let's get there right now. Let's get Revelation chapter 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This is the exact same beast that we just read about in Daniel, the 7th chapter. Read on, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. The beasts that you see here, the leopard, the bear, the lion, these are all the same beasts that were mentioned in Daniel the 7th chapter 2 as well, because this last rulership, this last beast, this fourth beast, aka America, all right, the global corporation of America, they've absorbed all the ways of the other nations, which is, a lot of y'all know this, right? Who the 7 beasts are. So the lion was referring to where it says the first was the lion. That's the Babylonian Empire. Okay. And then the second was the Persian Mede Empire. All right. So it says a second like unto a bear that raised up like to a bear, and it raised up, itself on one side, and it had three ribs in its mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said, thus into it arise to devour much flesh. This is referring to the Persian Mede Empire. Okay. And then the third is referring to the Greeks. After this, I beheld another like a leopard, which had upon the back of his four wings of a fowl. The beast also had four heads, and dominion was given into it. That's referring to the Greek Empire. Okay. So you had the Babylonians, you had the Persian Medes, then you had the Greeks, and then you had the Romans. They all ruled in that order. But this rulership that we're in, they all borrowed elements from all four of these rulerships. So that's why it says this beast is like a combined beast of all four of the previous beasts that we read about in in Daniel chapter 7. Okay. And when it says the dragon gave him his authority, that's Satan. Just like we read about in Second Thessalonians chapter 2. Okay. Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. That's what Revelation 13 is talking about. Okay. The dragon gave him his power. Satan gave him his power. Okay. The deceivableness, because everything that we are taught is completely backwards. Okay. A.K. satanic, A.K. Luciferian. Okay. A.K. wicked. Just straight up like that. Okay. Verse 3, here's the important verse. All right, or at least to this point. Verse 3 in Revelation chapter 13. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. Why does it say that? And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. One part of the beast was wounded to death, meaning Rome went out of rulership. Okay. Around 476 AD, that was the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Okay. That's the head that was wounded to death, meaning taken out of rulership. Okay. His deadly wound was healed when America was first instituted after the American Revolution. Well, really, a lot before that, right? So you really could say more around 1453, okay? With the fall of the Byzantine Empire by the Ottoman Empire. This is around the time where the so-called white man, he started increasing his power. But really, it didn't fully culminate all the way until about the 19th century, when the so-called white man really started to take control. Because even at this time in 1453, you still had so-called black men that were ruling in Europe. But that's when the deadly wound was healed, when Rome, headed by the so-called white man, was then instituted back into power. You know, so-called white man has not been ruling that long, not hundreds and hundreds of years, nothing like that. But that's when his deadly wound was healed. Okay, and all the world wondered after the beast, as we said before, because everyone knows about America. When you go to other countries, they know what America is. They know who the president of the United States is. Everyone knows about the states. You know, but a lot of people here, we don't know about different countries, but everybody else in other countries knows about the states. I promise you that. Okay, everybody knows America as the land of the free and all of this. You know, people die trying to escape their countries, especially like communist countries like Cuba, okay, North Korea, different things like that. Different men risk their lives and their family lives just to get out of their country to come here because they know it's the great whore. All right. The whole world wondered after the beast, which is America. Okay. Verse 4, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power into the beast. That's why we have pagan holidays, brothers and sisters, because they worship the dragon, aka Satan. And Satan is just an easy way of saying it to be more nuanced. The different pagan deities, including the Father, Son, and Mother Goddess. Okay. So different pagan holidays are after the veneration of different pagan deities. Okay, that's all part of the dragon, but that's who they worship, and they get us to worship them. That's exactly why we have, Christmas, which is the worship of the sun. Okay, Sun and Son, the worship of Tammuz, which you read about in Ezekiel, the 8th chapter, verse 14. Okay, that's exactly why these things are instituted, because it is. They worship the dragon, which gave them power, because they know this world is powered by Satan. They already know that. They read Job 9:24. They understand these things. You get me? And they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" Verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. Which this is the media, the mouth speaking great things that was given into the beast, that was given to the so-called white man, their media, okay, their outlets where they can just say blasphemous things and just get away with it. Trust the science. All love is love. Instituting homosexual marriage, different things of that nature, and the psychological, effects that has on the people, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months, or until Christ returns. That's a whole nother lesson I want to get into too, the 40 and 2 months. All right, verse 6. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against the Most High, to blaspheme his name. Okay, that's what they do every single day. And his tabernacle in them that dwell in heaven. All right, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints. We all know, like everyone knows what slavery is, or what happened in the times of slavery, right? That was the so-called white man making war with the saints. Get it? At least that's one part of it. That's one part of it. That's not all of it, but that is one part of it. It is a relevant part of it for sure. Absolutely, all day, right? But that's him making war with the saints. At least a more beginning of the war of the saints. That wasn't, the very, very beginning, but that was part of the beginning of him making war with the saints. But that continues every single day. Okay. All the different things that you see, the quote unquote police brutality. And really, police brutality to me is not just about, the individual acts. It's about the witchcraft that it puts on our people, to where psychologically now you're scared of the so-called white man. You view this white cop as this great executioner. You know what I mean? That's what I think the effects of something like police brutality really are. It's not just about the act in itself. It's about the effects that come from the act more than the act itself, to me. But that's making war with the saints. Okay. And overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. All right, verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. All right. So again, that's the so-called white man. Let's get Revelation chapter 17 now. And there came one of the 7 angels, which had their 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. And it says unto me, this is referring to John the Baptist. Oh, excuse me. So okay, not John the Baptist, John the Revelator, excuse me. Or it's 2 different Johns that you read. Okay, you have John the Baptist and then John of Patmos, aka John the Revelator. All right, this is who these prophecies were given to. All right, angel was speaking to him. Either way, come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Okay. Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Who else do you know? What other people, what other country do you know that has committed fornication, that's in league with all kings of the earth? America is always in the forefront of everything, even when other countries are disputing or when they beefing, when they go into war. America finds some type of way to involve themselves with it, like with Russia and Ukraine. Right? They had to step in and donate all that money to Ukraine and all that too. We always find ourselves in the midst of something. It's because we've established ourselves as this great whore that's committed fornication with all the kings of the earth, aka all the kingdoms, aka all the nations of the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Okay? So I grabbed this for verse 8, though. It says, the beast that thou sawest was and is not. Who else was described as is not in the scriptures? Okay. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go in perdition. See, the Most High be giving you signs. He be giving you signs of who he's talking about. Right? It says the beast that thou sawest was and is not. Why? Why does it say that? Because the Romans went out of power. And shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. Out of the bottomless pit, that's the Caucasus Mountains, which I know is commonly taught to be Europe, but I believe it to be the Caucasus Mountains. Oh, one thing you can do if you haven't seen the Revelation, the 20th chapter breakdown, you should really check that out. It'll help supplement a lot of the things that I'm saying on this lesson. It's 7 different parts, I believe. So, it's a long ride because I think most of them are over like 45 minutes to an hour plus, 7 parts. But either way, just check them out when you have time for more information, like on the bottomless pit. I think I have one lesson in particular just about the bottomless pit, if I'm not mistaken. At least that's mostly what I was talking about. It's part like 2 or 3, something like that. All right. But this is referring to the Romans, okay? A.K.A. Rome 2.0, A.K.A. Esau Edom, A.K.A. the so-called white man. This is who this is referring to. Excuse me. Verse 8. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold that beast that was and is not and yet is. So the beast that was and is not, because it's going to go out of rulership at that time and yet is, because it was present at that time. Okay, and it's going to go into rulership again in the future. That was, is not, and yet is, all at the same time. Okay. So Revelation 8 calls America the little horn. Okay. That sprang forth out of Great Britain. That's what I was going into with the American Revolution. Excuse me, the American Revolution. Okay. Like I said, I want to go more into that, but I feel I'm going to get a little bit too far off the topic. But either way, now that we've kind of went over who the man of sin is, according to some of the things harder to be understood about the scriptures, I do want to just end it off by going to some scriptures that will make it a lot more plain. All right. And I had this pulled up too. Similarities between the current American society and ancient Rome. All right, just to show you really quickly. I mean, we could read over this. I read over it earlier, very briefly, but it's not even necessary at this point because we kind of went into it. But just to make the point known that, again, this American society has borrowed many different political, all type of ideologies and systems from ancient Rome. Okay, and that's why the Bible calls it the beast that was and that is not and yet is. Okay, because this beast, aka this kingdom or aka this rulership, has been brought back on the earth just as a reincarnated version of Rome. Okay, and they borrowed all of these different, all these different things from Rome and brought it to America. Okay, government, culture, infrastructure, all these different things that they borrowed from the Greco-Romans. Okay, so you can see communication, my letters, newspaper, signposts, definitely structures, buildings and structures. Okay, like in the scriptures, it tells you about like the Senate that they borrowed, the different type of councils that they borrowed. It's a lot of different things. I probably could have just read this by the time I'm kind of glossing over it. The three branches of government, but I've already taken a lot of time, so I just want to, wrap that up. All right. So again, let's end it with going into some scriptures that will make it very plain who this is referring to and where I'm pulling this from. Because we started out more going into, the different beasts and who will be in rulership at the end. All right, according to the scriptures and some of the things, again, that's more harder to be understood, but let's make it a lot more plain with these last scriptures, then we'll wrap up. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 49 and verse 10. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places. Remember, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 said that man shall be revealed. Okay. And he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and what? He is not. The scriptures are giving you so many different clues to tell you who this is referring to, right? And he is not. Esau is not. Why is that? Because they're basically dead men walking, because they're the only nation that's been described to be completely destroyed in Obadiah, the 18th verse. Okay. His brethren and his neighbors, his seed is spoiled, and he is not. All right. And he's going to reveal him. This is the scriptures connecting right now. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places. Okay. He's the man of sin. He's the son of perdition. That's going to be revealed. You understand? That man of sin is going to be revealed. He's talking about Esau. Jeremiah chapter 49 is giving you that. Have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. He's going to be revealed. You see? Paul knew that was here. Let's get Psalm chapter 137 and verse 7. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundations thereof. Race it. Think of the word erase. They were saying destroy, because Esau, or the children of Edom, when the Babylonians took over, when they invaded and seized Jerusalem, Esau was right there with them. They were part of the destruction. Okay. During the Babylonian rulership. All right. They were a part of it. So, they were cursed because of that. It's over with. All right. Remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof. All right. Verse 8. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. What did Christ say he coming to do? He coming to destroy, but the current rulership. O daughter of Babylon, he's coming to destroy Babylon. Esau is known as the daughter of Babylon here in Psalms chapter 137. Happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. You see? Doesn't Revelation, the 18th chapter, tell you about Babylon and it falling? Okay. Verse 1 in Revelation chapter 18. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. Verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. See? So this is referring to Babylon, aka America, aka the fourth beast. You understand? So Babylon is going to fall, aka America is going to fall. All right? Come out of her, the scriptures say, right here in verse 4. So that's why they were called the daughter of Babylon, because they helped Babylon in the siege of Jerusalem, again, during the Babylonian captivity. All right. They were right there saying, race it, race it. All right. So they were cursed because of that. Give me. Let's get verse 17 in the book of Obadiah. It says, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance. All right, the Israelites, or Zion is Jerusalem, or the people. All right, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. Verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. So both kingdoms, the northern and southern kingdom, all 12 tribes. And it reads, in the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. So you see who they're referring to. This is talking about Yahushua and his return. Okay. Why does it mention Esau is going to be the stubble? All right. And they're going to be devoured. Why does it say that? Because they're going to be the rulership that's going to be in place when Yahushua returns. They're going to be the kingdom in power. All right. So Ezekiel chapter 25, verse 12. Thus saith the Lord God, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and hath greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Verse 13. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, I will also stretch out mine hand upon Edom, and will cut off man and beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. Verse 14, and I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Israel. And they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury. And they shall know my vengeance, saith the Lord God. So Esau, Edom is marked. Like I said, they're the children of the curse. All right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold. What does that mean? That means that when Yahushua comes back with his chariots, all right, he's going to come through threshing. All right. Behold, it shall come down from Idumea. That's just Greek for Esau or Edom. And upon the people of my curse to judgment. Verse 6, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood, and it is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra. Basra is in Edom, or was in Edom, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. How many more clues do you need? Let's get Malachi, the first chapter. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. Starting at the top, verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I love Jacob. Verse 3, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. You see dragons being used again. Remember, the fourth beast was powered by the dragon. Okay, verse 4, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, aka the man of sin, aka the son of perdition. And it reads, and the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. See, so that's who the man of sin is. Okay, he just can't get right. Every time he in rulership, it's just all hell breaking loose on earth. That's why he is the border of wickedness. Okay, all nations, all nations are a part of the left-hand path because they're not a part of the right. But Esau, he just go all the way out, man. He tries to get everybody else to do the exact same thing as him with other nations. They, especially like the Japhetic nations, when they were in rulership, a lot of times they like to mind their own business, and they'll let you mind their own business. Right. So, and you read about that, like how Israel was let back to go and build the second temple. Okay. So, like Darius, they kind of, they be going off too, but Esau, he just take it to a whole new level, So that's why he's called the border of wickedness. Right? The people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Okay. Like we read about too, again in Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9. And you know what? I think we got enough of the point. I was going to read basically where Paul got this from in verse 13, but I believe we got the point. Let's get Micah chapter 2 and verse 12. Let's kind of wrap it up here. All right. Micah chapter 2 and verse 12. I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Basra, as a flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. I will put them together as the sheep of Basra. Basra is a city in Edom. Again, the Most High is giving you a clue of who would be in rulership at his return. Okay. And let's make this clear real quick. Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 21. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. So Esau is going to be destroyed because of the iniquity of their fathers. Okay, because of what they did with Babylon. All right. Esau and Jacob were twin brothers, but his his forefather, at least Edom in the current Edom, or current Esau, or the Edomites, their forefathers betrayed our forefathers, and they've been marked men since then. So they're the children of the curse. Get it? The Most High not going back on what he said. Numbers chapter 23, verse 19. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said, and shall not he not do it? Or hath he spoken, and shall he not make it good? So it's already written. You know, a lot of people think the quote unquote New Testament is basically going going against what's already written, and it's not. Understand? Like it says here, Matthew 20:16. So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. So the so-called black man is last now, but he shall be first. Okay, just to keep it very simple. But I think we've gone on and gotten enough scriptures for now. If I wasn't doing a complete yap session, trying to establish, the lesson, then we wouldn't have went over as much. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. Let's just end it with this. Okay, let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 6, and then let's read verse 7 to finally put everything all together. A lot of you brothers probably already knew this was coming, but let's get verse 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? And when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? So what shall be the parting asunder of times, meaning the end and the beginning of it that followeth, the kingdom of heaven? Okay, who's going to be in rulership at the end? Who's going to be in rulership at the beginning that followeth in the kingdom of heaven? Okay, how are we going to know? What's going to be the signs of the end of the times, as we're saying here? Okay, to the angel. Verse 8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Verse 9, to bring it on home, for Esau is the end of the world. He is the man of sin. He is the son of perdition. He is going to be in rulership at the end times, meaning now. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So that's how I know that Esau is the man of sin. Okay. Verse 10, the hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand of the question, Esdras, ask thou not. So he's referring to Genesis chapter 25. Okay. So Genesis 25 and 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So you see that Esau came out first. He was the elder brother. Okay. And after that came his brother out and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. His name was called Jacob, and Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. So you see, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. Okay. Meaning the younger brother shall be over the older brother. Okay. That's what prophecy teaches us. But that's pretty much it, y'all. I feel like I kind of went over a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. Lord willing, this was edifying. Let me know if you have any other questions. You can shoot us an email or really shoot me an email, but you shoot me an email or just write a comment. Let me know if you have any other questions, any other lessons that you would like me to go over. Lord willing, this was edifying. Until next time, I bid everyone a mighty shalom.